Okay, so now we've organised our media, we're ready to start editing. Now, one thing I've done between this video and the last one is I went through all the interviews and used the range-based keywording to select the answers to each of the questions that was asked by the interviewer. So I've now got a new folder here with a load of keyword collections in it, and each one represents the answers to one of the questions that the interviewer asked. This is going to make it easy for us to find the answers when we're trying to put together the edit. It's a really useful thing to do, and I'd recommend that for any interview-based project. So the first thing we need to do is create the project, and you can see down here in the timeline, because there isn't one, it's giving us the option to create one. So we'll click on that, we'll name it. Now here we've got the options for setting the starting time code. By default it's on midnight time code, but if you did need to change that, for example if you were delivering to a broadcaster, you're able to do it from there. It'll also by default automatically set up the project settings based on the first video that goes into the timeline. But if you need to change that, if you want very specific output, then you can click on that Use Custom Settings button and choose your format, frame size, frame rate, rendering codec and audio layout. But in this case I'll leave it on automatic so you can see how that works. Click OK. So you can see down here now the timeline is showing an empty timeline that relates to the behind the scenes project. And if we come back here to behind the scenes, you can see the project there. So the first thing we're going to do is use the answers from the interviews to start building the structure of our edit down here. So this being a behind the scenes video, we want to make sure that we have good interview answers from people talking about the film and how the shoot went, that sort of thing, which is what the interviewer asked them, so we have that footage. We just need to make sure we've got it laid out to tell a story about the shoot. So first things first, I'm going to choose this clip here from the director who gives a quick overview of the story.
So The Black Necklace is a sci-fi short film that's set in a basically parallel universe where everyone's wearing a necklace that represents their soul.
So you can take that clip, do an in and out on it if we just want to take a selection, and then you can either drag this down here to the timeline and put it in. You can also use a shortcut which is E, which will append the clip to the timeline. So you see there, if I keep pressing it, it keeps adding the clip to the end of the timeline. What we're going to do is we're just going to go through all these answers, and I'm just going to find a good one, select it, choose the range, append it. So I've skipped ahead a little bit now to a point where I've added a lot more clips to the timeline. So you can see I've gone up to about the 3-minute mark with clips from the interviews, and I thought this would be a good chance to show some of the other editing tools available in the timeline. So in the last section I showed you how to append a video, but what happens if we want to insert a video in between two clips? So here I've got a clip of Amy and a clip of Kate, and I want a little bit more detail about Kate's character here, so I need to add another shot in. So I've already selected the range here that I want to add. So there's a couple of ways I can do this. I can either click and drag it in, and you can see the timeline there is moved to allow me to put that clip in. Or I can also use a shortcut, which in this case is the W key. As you can remember, wedge. There you go. So now that clip has been put in the timeline, and you see the clips around it have moved to accommodate it. Now one of the things, if you do use the shortcut, is it will actually let you do it in the middle of another clip. So you just need to be careful to make sure that your timeline, your playhead here is in exactly the point you want to insert the clip. The other thing that you can do, that the magnetic timeline allows you to do quite easily, is you can move clips around inside the timeline without breaking any of the audio or video sync. So there's a group of clips here where they talk about how the shoot went in general, and it's quite a nice section as a sort of summary, and I think it's a better way of closing the video than what I've got already. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select those clips that I want to put at the end, and I'm just going to click and drag them to the end, and you see there how Final Cut's automatically moved the rest of the clips up and drop those at the end. And of course the same thing would work if I wanted to put them back. So that's a useful way of being able to reorder clips to your timeline and add new clips. Of course, you might also want to just, trim some of the video here. So again, you just click and drag on the start or the end to do that. And the aim at this point really is just to have a coherent story from start to finish. So in my case, I've got the director introducing the shoot, the actors introducing their characters, some of the crew and the characters talking about the storyline, the cast and crew talking about their experiences on set, and at the end each of them just summarising how the shoot's gone. So you've got a nice story arc there within the video, but it's visually not great at the moment, because basically it's just shots of people talking. You can see how a lot of the interviews were shot on the same background, which means when it cuts between people, it's a bit of a jump. So we'll want to try and smooth that up. There's also a lot of hesitation and pauses in people talking, which isn't great when you're watching the video. So we're going to go through and try and cut some of those out. But for now, this is a quick way of showing you how to put together your rough cut. Thanks for watching. In the next video, I'll be looking at adding cutaways to our timeline.